Welcome to the Terrence and Roy movie review of the movie The Dark Tower. A couple of disclaimers before we get into the actual review part. Number one, The Dark Tower is based on the Stephen King series of books, which I have not read. I honestly had not high expectations, but I was pretty optimistic about the movie. And the reviews that were coming out, the earlier reviews, were mostly pretty negative. And I was curious as to why. So I didn't go that far into them, but I just kind of got a feeling, kind of a general smattering of why everyone was so negative on the movie. And it seems like the bulk of the complaints more or less, some people had legitimate complaints, but the bulk more or less boil down to that this isn't the books. It's not an adaptation directly, alone it's part of the first book, partially a sequel. I don't know. I've never read the book, so I'm not 100% sure, But so my perspective, if you're looking for a perspective of how good an adaptation this is of the books, this is not the review because I don't know how good an adaptation of it is. I can only judge it as a movie based on its own merits, more or less. I know some about the books here or there, overall. I know the general plot and the general themes and everything, but I don't know enough to criticize individual moments. So the second disclaimer I'll say is I really don't like horror for the most part. I like psychological thriller sort of things. So Stephen King's always been kind of an interesting area for me because he does tend to deal a lot with the sort of psychological aspect of the genre, which is more interesting than, the slasher genre or anything like that. And Stephen King is a great author. I've read multiple of his books, and everything, and there have been multiple adaptations of his books made, and most people aren't happy with most of them. But for those who don't know, The Dark Tower is about a main character, the gunslinger. Basically, the basic plot is the gunslinger is trying to catch the man in black, who's trying to destroy the Dark Tower, which is basically something that defends the universe from darkness, ultimately. And even the movie itself, I'm just going to get right to the point. I think this movie is a lot like a movie that came out earlier this year, and it wasn't the one I was expecting it to be like. I think it ended up being a lot like the reboot of Power Rangers. And I mean this... The main reason I think I mean this is because it seems like there are clearly two camps in this movie, just like there were two camps in the original Power Rangers. One camp of people going, this is the first movie in the series, so we should really hold back and not give anything away, really. We should save it all for inevitable sequels. And then there's another camp which seemed to be more like, this is the first movie, and this movie really needs to succeed so there can be sequels, so we should throw everything we've got in there. And so there's just kind of these two fighting camps. And just like Power Rangers earlier this year, it revolves in a movie that's kind of like half holding back, but then it's like half giving you what you want. But when it gives you what it wants, it's like really... It's like on fast forward almost. It's almost like an abridged version of what you want. It's like, that was really awesome, but that was like a 30-second scene or a 45-second scene or whatever, or very short. And this movie is really short. This movie is only like an hour and a half long, a little over that, but it seemed like, and that it's weird because the movie did feel like it was on fast forward a lot. It was a lot like, well, we're establishing. It was like they were hurrying to establish everything about the characters and the world, and because it's pretty complex. There's a lot of different worlds that they go to, and there's a lot of different characters and backstory and everything, and I didn't necessarily have trouble figuring out any of it or anything like that, but there was a lot that they felt that they had to drop all at the same time and kind of speed through, so it did really feel like there were two competing people in this movie, two competing people who made the movie. It was a group of people going like, just get it over with, just as fast as you can, make the movie, and then we'll move on to the second one. And another group of people going, we got to focus on this movie, make it as good as we can. And it ended up being a pretty average movie, honestly, overall. I didn't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. I liked it. Overall, I felt satisfied by the movie as a whole, even though a lot of individual moments in the movie were underwhelming or not entirely satisfying. But overall, and part of it is that so much of it is well done, particularly the acting. Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey as the leads are both amazing, and the lead child actor they got also great, and they're the bulk of the movie. They carry most of the movie. There's one or two really secondary performances that were kind of weird, kind of like overacting, ish. So that was weird, but they weren't a huge part of the movie, really. It's mostly focused on the three characters, Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey, and the child character. So, and those were all really well acted. And it's just hard to gauge, really, where the movie falls. Because just like the Power Rangers movie earlier this year, ultimately, I just got to kind of get to the mission statement, which is, ultimately, just like Power Rangers earlier this year, it was a movie that felt like it was the groundwork, for what will be a much better movie. It felt like a good movie that could have been an amazing movie. And I don't know if it was the adaptation problems that were the problem. I don't know if it was the timing thing. Again, I don't know why the movie is so short, really. Maybe it's because I feel like they do a lot, because they do go a lot of places and introduce a lot of things, But that's what it is. I came out with basically the exact same feeling I came out of Power Rangers with, going, I was relatively satisfied by this movie. I wasn't super thrilled or anything. It wasn't great, but the pieces were put in place to make a future movie in the series be potentially great, be potentially amazing. It got a lot of the stuff out of the way so that they could, maybe put it more time into the action now that they've established a lot of the characters, because there were a couple cool action scenes, but they were relatively short for the most part. They weren't nearly as much as I thought they were going to be, and so hopefully the next movie will be better. But this movie was okay. This movie was like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe. It depends, somewhere between a 6 and a 7. It was good. I honestly thought it was a good movie, but it wasn't a great movie. It was a movie that was really struggling to get to the next level, and they just couldn't do it really. They're holding something back. They're holding a lot back, it seemed, and I know the books are completely complicated and everything like that, and they deal with all the mythologies of the Stephen King universe, and there are a lot of references in this movie to other parts of the Stephen King universe. There's references to Cujo, to Christine. There's references to It. There's a whole bunch of different references to a whole bunch of different things. So that's good. If you like Stephen King, that's a plus, I suppose. But if you really like Stephen King, you probably read the books, and then you're probably disappointed that it's apparently not a very good adaptation. But I do plan on reading the books at this point, because I am genuinely interested. It's a good concept and everything. So we'll see. But that's where this movie is. This movie is basically like a kind of 6.5-ish, somewhere in that area, like really trying to be great, but only managing good. Basically. Well, I don't think it was a bad movie, but it was fine. It was fine. So if you want to go see a movie that's fine, if you've already seen all the movies that are great that have come out, if you've seen Baby Driver and if you've seen Spider-Man and everything like that, and you want to see a movie that's fine, feel free to go see this movie. And if you like Idris Elba, and if you like Matthew McConaughey, and if you like the general concept, and this movie's way more sci-fi and not as much horror for the most part, so that's a plus for me. But so if that's the sort of thing that you want, you probably won't be super disappointed. You'll probably be like, I don't feel like I wasted my time or my money. I feel like I got, depending on how much you pay for it, I feel like I got what I paid for, and not necessarily more, but not less. Really. So that's really where it ends up for the most part. So until next time, I guess. Tell me what you think of the Dark Tower, and if I'm missing something. Is like. Am I really, like, should I have read the books first or anything? Should I have, will my opinion change once I read the books? I want to know from people who know things like that. So tell me what you think, and I'll see you later this week for Game of Thrones.